Good morning. Good morning, traders. How are you all doing today? Karibuni sana. Glad you could all join us this fine Monday morning, although there is a lot of rain, which technically is a blessing. For those who are new, my name is Mitch Kanyaru. I'm a trader with Afriforex. I want to welcome you to another Afriforex daily analysis session. Now, during these sessions, we as the Afriforex team, we analyze the markets early in the morning to identify what trading opportunities we'll be looking at taking for the day, what pairs are strong, what pairs are weak, and we do share that information with you. So remember, if you do have any questions, feel free to ask them on the chat box. The team will be there to respond to you, but I will also be looking to address those at the end of this session. So let's jump straight into it. So as usual, we'll start off with the watch list. So looking at Friday, let's go back to Friday and see what the difference is and what we're looking at on Friday. So our Friday, our focus was we're looking for selling opportunities on the US dollars and the British pound pair, and looking to mix and match those pairs with all the pairs on the buy side. So the euro, the Australian dollar, the New Zealand dollar, Canadian dollar, the Swiss franc, and the Japanese yen. However, there were a number of fundamentals that did end up changing on Friday as well as today morning. So our focus has quite changed quite a bit. So our focus is going to be looking for selling opportunities on the Japanese yen and the Canadian dollar. And we'll be looking to mix and match both these two pairs with all the pairs on the buy side. So the euro, the Australian dollar, the New Zealand dollar, Swiss franc, British pound, as well as the US dollar. So before we do focus on today's pairs, let's have a look at what happened on Friday before we do end up jumping onto the pairs that we're going to be looking at today. So starting off with the euro against the US dollar. So this was a currency pair we did have on Friday. We're meant to be looking for buying opportunities. You can see the three areas that we had pointed out and where price was on Friday. Now, it did manage to continue breaking this area to the upside during the London session. Now, remember, the main thing we wanted was a pullback. Come back towards the support and resistance area to look for a buy. But as you can see, the price never really did pull back. And even after the non-farm payroll that was on Friday, there was really not much activity that did end up happening. There was hardly any opportunities that we did end up getting. So you can see hardly any activity due to non-farm payroll, but we're hoping that today they will be, or at least we will see some movement on the charts based on those news events that did come out. But as you can see, the market has just been ranging, so no real trading opportunity that did give us on Friday, and it is off our watch list for today. Now, the Australian dollar is another pair that we were looking at on Friday, looking for buying opportunities. You can see the three areas that we had pointed out. Now, initially, when we were discussing this market, the price was within this particular area. So we needed one of two things, either a breach to the upside and the price holding above, or getting a pullback coming back down towards the support and resistance area. Now, I did point out you needed to watch out for this seller right here, because this was a seller who did push this price down lower. So we needed to make sure that we need be careful about that seller, basically. And you can see the price did attempt to go to the upside and never actually held above, but you can see it reacted within that seller's area, and the price managed to continue coming down lower. Unfortunately, we did not get the price all the way back within our main buyer's area. Although you can see it was at the lowest point at around 430 when the non-farm payroll did come out. And you can see the buyers did end up attempting to come to the upside. But as you can clearly see, the levels that we had pointed out are still holding on the market. So you can see no real levels were actually broken. So there was hardly any activity, or at least no trading opportunity for us on Friday. So on the New Zealand dollar against the US dollar, it's a similar situation. Our bias here was to look for buying opportunities. You can see the three areas we had pointed out. As we're waiting for the price to come back, since we're within a bias area, we did end up starting to get the price go to the upside. Now, unfortunately, could not get all the way within this main seller's area. It seems like it did end up finding some sort of support and resistance area right there, where you can see once it did break to the downside, it did end up coming back and holding below that area. But you can see the price still managed to come back within our area within this particular location. Ended up getting multiple probes actually on Friday. You can see the price is still holding within that level, but as you can see, the market has not actually taken off anywhere. So there was hardly any trading opportunity for us on Friday on the New Zealand dollar against the US dollar. Now, the next pair we did have was the US dollar against Swiss franc. Our bias here was to look for selling opportunities, and it seems it ended up working out during or just before the Frankfurt market opened, where you can see the price did end up starting to continue going to the downside. Wanted to see if it could end up getting a pullback, where the pullback did end up attempting to come up. Unfortunately, could not get back all the way to the main seller's area. You can see the reaction at 430, where it attempted to come down. But the fact that this market is just ranging between these two levels, it just means that the big boys are not necessarily there. But the good thing about ranges, it also means that the big boys could be loading up some orders. So today, either during the London session or the US session, we could end up finding some movement on the chart. But unfortunately, for the US dollar against the Swiss franc, it is off our watch list for today. Now, the next pair we did have was the euro against the British pound. This kind of pair we were meant to be looking for buying opportunities, and the markets then seem to have moved during the Asian session. A bit during the London session, you can see the price was holding above this particular area. And there was a small buying opportunity at that point in time, because you can see from 11, the price managed to continue going all the way to the upside, but it was around 4:30 or so. Once the non-farm payroll did come in, you can see the market did end up giving us a pullback. Now, it did end up coming back towards this main support and resistance area that we did want. You can even see the fact that the price seems to be giving us a probe and still seems to be holding. But the fact that there's been hardly any activity, you can clearly see no big boy was really involved here. When you see a big boy, you do end up seeing level being reached and some big movements. The fact that we did not see that, and there was really no trading opportunity for us on Friday on the euro against the British pound. Now, the next pair we did have was the British pound against the Australian dollar. Now, on this kind of pair, we were meant to be looking for some selling opportunities, but you can clearly see the three areas that we had pointed out. Now, the price did manage to continue going up. I had pointed out that there was some major sellers area right there at the top. You can see at the extreme area right there where it did point out the blue level. Now, the price did manage to continue going up. The fact that it held above, it was off our watch list. So even though it reacted within this blue support and resistance area, it was off our watch list. As you can see, the price still holding to the upside. It's only today that it's attempting to come down, but we do not actually know if this is a real breach. And the fact that the fundamentals have switched, unfortunately, this is a pair that's going to be off our watch list for today. Now, similar situation on the British pound against the New Zealand dollar. Our bias here was to look for selling opportunities, and you can see the price ended up giving us a pullback throughout the London session and the Asian session. Managed to get towards the main seller's area. You can see how many times this market has probed this particular location. It's only today during the Asian session where you can see the price is actually held below. Now, even though it is attempting to come down, right now, the fact that the fundamentals have switched, this is definitely a pair that's going to be off our watch list for today. Now, last but not least, we do have the British pound against the Swiss franc. Similar situation. Our bias here was to look for selling opportunities, but the fact that you can clearly see hardly any activity. This is all the market was doing throughout the whole day, even when the non-farm payroll was there. Even though the price didn't manage to actually break this area to the downside based on the illustration, we got a pullback, the price holding below. Even though the price managed to come down, you can see it has not been able to really break this particular low. The price keeps on ranging between these levels. So it does mean that the big boys could be loading up orders, but also it just means that there was no real trading opportunity for us on Friday. So hopefully today we will end up finding some good trading opportunities, as that is it for the review pairs. Now remember, guys, if you manage to take any setups based on things that we do share, feel free to send them in to us. Our contact details are in the video description below. So let's just focus on today's pairs. And one thing to take note of in terms of fundamentals, we do have some fundamentals coming out today, but most of them are coming out during the London session. You can see we have some euro fundamentals, as well as some Swiss franc fundamentals coming out later on today. So do make sure you are in the Telegram channel. There should be a link for that also in the video description. So you will end up being informed if there are any changes to the watch list. But for now, we'll start off with the Japanese yen pairs, mix and match them with the pairs on the buy side. Then we'll move on to the Canadian dollar pairs, then do the exact same thing before we have a look at the indices, as well as gold and silver. So we'll start off with the yen pair. So we'll start off with the euro against the Japanese yen. So brand new entry on our watch list. And on this currency pair, our bias here is to look for buying opportunities. Now, we have identified these three areas that the buys could potentially work out from. Now, the fact is you need to realize is the market does seem to be in some sort of range, bouncing between these two levels. And if that's the case and the market is ranging, then you know the best place to look for the buy is at the bottom of the range down here. We do have the top of the range that we do need to avoid. We're not necessarily going to be looking for selling opportunities, because we do want to make sure that we're in the trade on the right direction. And especially if you compare how the buyers have been coming to the upside, you can see the push to the upside, and look at how the sellers are coming down, especially compared to how they were coming down before. It's not necessarily a best choice to end up looking for that sell. So hopefully we can end up getting the price potentially breaking, either coming down, giving us some sort of probe or pullback within there for us to look for a buying opportunity. But if the price is able to break this area to the upside, remember with ranges, you need to be careful because they do probe a lot. Do wait for confirmation that the price is actually holding to the upside. If you do end up seeing that, you should be able to look for a buying opportunity. Yes, you can target all the way till the top, but do also watch out for where this blue support resistance area here is it is definitely also a sort of problem area. So even if you do manage to grab your buying opportunity, do make sure you do some sort of trade management, either set an alert there, see what kind of reaction you end up getting within that location. But for now, those will be the levels. Right now, we're just in the middle of the range, so there's nothing much for us to do. We either need the price at the bottom or to breach the upside for us to look for these buying opportunities. So hope that's clear on the euro against the Japanese yen as we move on to the next yen pair. So right here, we have the Australian dollar against the Japanese yen, brand new entry on our watch list. Now, our bias here is to look for buying opportunities. So we have identified 3 areas of interest that the buyers could end up working out from. We have the aggressive sellers area down there. We have a support and resistance area that does seem to be holding. We have a big seller area also at the top. So for right now, as you can clearly see, we are getting some sort of probe due to the fact that the market can see how many times it has probed within this area, never actually held below, and the fact that the price has managed to still come back within and hold above that particular location. So right now, even though you can see the price is coming up, this is not a very good place to look for your buying opportunities because you can see we're within an area where there are sellers. So we need one of 2 things to happen. It's a similar situation with the other yen pairs, especially due to the fact that the yen pairs do like correlating a lot. It could end up either giving us a pullback. So if you see one giving you a pullback, chances are all of them are. But at the same time, if you see one of them reaching to the upside, have a look at the other ones. And if you also see them doing the same thing and holding to the upside, then you should be able to look for a very nice buying opportunity once we do break above this support and resistance area. So we're waiting to see what ends up happening. But remember, if the price breaks and falls below this red support and resistance area, this pair will fall off our watch list. So hope that's clear. We'll move on to the next yen pair. And more chances are most of the yen pairs do basically look the same. Remember, because there is a very good correlation that does come in with the yen pairs. So right here, we have the New Zealand dollar against the Japanese yen. Similar situation with the Australian dollar against the yen, where you can see the probes that didn't have happening. 2 probes, similar situation. The price has given us a pullback, and we are going to the upside. But right now, we're so close within the seller's area. So let's wait for one of 2 things. Remember, either the price will give us a pullback within the support and resistance area, some sort of probe or price action signal. We don't get that, and we do see the price actually breaking the area to the upside and holding above, then we should be able to look for buying opportunities there. So it might not necessarily pull back first, could easily find the price actually just breaking this area to the upside. And if it does hold above, then you should be able to look for that buying opportunity. So do wait for that. As you can clearly see, the yen pairs do look quite similar. And chances as we go to the next yen pair, it will look a bit the same. Unfortunately, this one not necessarily. This is mainly because the Swiss franc was showing us a lot of strength. So still on the buy side, and here our bias is going to be looking for buying opportunities. It does look slightly different with the other yen pairs, so that's okay. It is because of the Swiss franc that's actually pushing it. So right here, if you do end up taking note, we're still also within an area where the seller is similar to the other yen pair. So it doesn't necessarily look exactly, but the fact that within the area that we're at, we're back within an area where the sellers, similar situation with the New Zealand dollar against the yen, can clearly see we're so close within a seller's area. So it's a similar situation. Either we'll get the market giving us a pullback, either coming back down within this support and resistance area to give us some sort of probe or price action signal to look for buying opportunities, or you could easily find this market actually breaking this area to the upside. So if you do see the other yen pairs breaking the resistance area where we're at to the upside, and we do see them holding above, chances are this one will also do the same thing. So we'll wait to see what ends up happening on the Swiss franc against the yen. But definitely we will be looking for buying opportunities, but just do not look for your buys just yet. Remember, we are trend pullback traders. That's ideally our edge. We wait for a pullback to come in before we look for those buying opportunities. We do not chase the market when it's already going to the upside. So hope that's clear on the Swiss franc against the yen as we move on to the next yen pair, which is the British pound against the Japanese yen. Now, this currency pair, we did have it on Friday, and on Friday, we were meant to be looking for selling opportunities. Remember, both the British pound and the Japanese yen were both on opposite sides on Friday. And the areas, as you can see, we did end up highlighting were within this location. We did point out that we're within a range. And remember, we either wanted a pullback coming in for us to look for a sell, and you can see the pullback did end up coming in. Fortunately, could not get all the way to the top, although at around 4:30 when the non-farm payroll did come in, you can see the market did end up spiking. You can end up zooming in a bit. Can clearly see the price managed to get within that area before actually coming down. So this trade did end up working out. Remember, you should have managed your trade within the buyer's area. You can see the similar situation on all the other yen pairs where you can clearly see that we did end up getting 2 similar probes right there before the market has come down. So we are still expecting to look for those buying opportunities, especially based on this kind of reaction that the buyers came in within this particular area. So that's definitely a good sign for us. We don't necessarily want to jump in on buys all the way at the top, waiting for a pullback to come in. So let's see how far this pullback can come in. We have the main buyers area right there, still focusing on the same level. You can clearly see we have a seller's area right here at the top. So if we do want to end up looking for a buying opportunity, remember with the yen pairs, either we're going to get a pullback within this particular area before we're able to look for a buying opportunity. And if we do get the price breaking and holding above, then we should be able to continue looking for buying opportunities on the British pound against the Japanese yen. But do make sure you manage your trade within this next problem area. So I do hope that's clear on the British pound against the yen. As we move on to the last yen pair that we do have, which is the US dollar against the Japanese yen. Now, similar situation with the British pound against the Japanese yen. We did end up having this pair on Friday. However, on Friday, we were meant to be looking for selling opportunity. Now, you can see the price was within the buyer's area, and we do not want to necessarily jump in on a sell when we're looking for, within that particular area. So remember, even just based on the illustration we had here, we either needed a pullback to come in or a breach to the downside. But as you can see, none of that ended up happening. The price just continued holding within this particular area. You can see we attempted to come down, but that was just a probe. Similar situation, it attempted to come down, another probe. Like with all these yen pairs, you can see how many times it's probed, but the price has still managed to come back, and we do still seem to be holding above that particular area. So we might be entering into some sort of range, but we will still, at least today, we will be looking for buying opportunities on the US dollar against the yen, focusing on these three areas for the potential buys. So right now, at least with this one, we're much closer towards the buyer's area in comparison to the other yen pairs. So let's wait to see if we can end up getting this pullback coming in, giving us some sort of probe or price action signal within there for us to look for buying opportunities. Or alternatively, we could easily end up getting the price actually going to the upside, breaking that area to the upside. We do see the price holding above, then we should be able to find a very nice buying opportunity. So you can clearly see the yen pairs, the game plan is the same. So do make sure you can be looking at one. You see something else happening on the other pairs, or at least on one pair, have a look at the other ones to see if there's any correlation coming in. And if that's the case, you could end up finding some very nice trading opportunities there. So I hope that's clear with all the yen pairs. As you can see, we've mixed and matched all the yen pairs with the pairs on the buy side. So right now, we're going to move on to the Canadian dollar pairs. So a second. So yes, here we are. There's a watch list. So right now, at least we've moved on, or at least we've done the yen pairs. So right now, we're going to move on to the Canadian dollar pairs. So we'll start off with the euro against the Canadian dollar. Now, on this kind of pair, it's a brand new entry on our watch list. And our bias here is to look for buying opportunities. You can see now these are the three areas that we have identified that the buys could work out for. So right now, we're so close within the seller's area, but the good thing is we are potentially getting a pullback. You can see how many times this market has attempted to break this area to the upside. We even got a probe, confirmation that the price is holding within this area. So hopefully we can end up getting this price giving us some sort of pullback, at least inciting a few more people to look for selling opportunities. Once we do end up getting within this particular buyer's area, we'll wait to see what kind of reaction we get, whether or not the buyers are going to react. If they do not react within this particular area, and you see the price breaking and holding below, then chances are we could be coming back down towards the red support resistance area for us to look for those buying opportunities there. But be aware, remember, even though right now we have gotten a pullback, chances are we could come down a bit lower than this. You can see this is a small buyer's area. But if that's the case, all the people who are jumping in on buys thinking this is the range, most of them guaranteed will have their stop losses below this particular area. So there's a possibility we need to incite more people to start looking for sells, because if you did end up entering a buy there and you were stopped out, at that point in time, you no longer think it's a buy. Chances are you'll now start thinking it's a sell. And that's what the buyers, we as the buyers, what we want to incite a few more people to look for those sells before we're able to look for those buying opportunities on the euro against the Canadian dollar. But be aware, if you do get the price coming to the upside, we're able to break and hold above, then we should be able to continue looking for buying opportunities on this kind of stuff. So I hope the game plan is clear, at least on what we're looking at doing on the euro against Canadian dollar. As we move on to the next Canadian dollar pair, here we have the Australian dollar against the Canadian dollar. Now, in this kind of pair, our bias here is to look for buying opportunities. So we have identified three areas of interest that we could end up looking for buying opportunities from. Now, this one is a bit complicated, or not necessarily complicated, but let me just go up to a higher time frame. So in fact, let's look at this right here. So right now, the fact that the price has managed to come down, but let me just go up higher, the 1 hour time frame. You can see overall, the market has been pushing to the upside, coming above right here. We did end up getting a pullback coming back towards this buyer's area, and you can see that kind of strong reaction we did end up getting. Now, we do have all these levels, and we have identified that this particular support and resistance area, you can see how many times that the price has held within such levels right here. But one thing we've also taken note of is the one who actually came down is this seller right here, where this blue support and resistance area is. And you can see the price does still seem to be holding there. So there's a possibility on this kind of pair that the price, if it is breaking and holding above this particular area right here, we could potentially end up finding, especially if it holds above, we might end up finding this price actually going to the upside. But don't necessarily start jumping in on buys, because you could easily find this being a probe, and you could end up finding the market still coming all the way back down towards this main red support and resistance area before we do end up finding those buy opportunities. But for right now, I think if we are able to get the price breaking and holding above this seller right here, then chances are we might actually end up finding a buying opportunity there. The only problem is with that, the risk to reward would not necessarily make sense, because you can see if the price does end up holding above there, even if you have your stop loss within there, you can see it's only giving you a risk reward of 1:1, which is not necessarily the best thing. Now, at that point in time, you'd require the price to actually go up higher. But you can see if the price is able to come down here, even with the same kind of stop loss, the potential of what you can end up getting ends up going from a 1:1 to a 1:3.4. So that's the reason why a lot of the time we end up wanting to wait for those pullbacks, because we have an area, it's a target area that we know price has actually gotten to before. So in this situation, let's wait to see. Right now, this has not been confirmed that it's a breach. Remember, probes do end up happening quite a lot. So let's wait to see what ends up happening on the Australian dollar against Canadian dollar. So hope that is clear. As we move on to the next Canadian dollar pair we do have, right here we have the New Zealand dollar against Canadian dollar. So it's a brand new entry on our watch list, and our bias here is going to be looking for buying opportunities. You can see overall, we've been in a push to the upside. Right here that we've got, as you can see the price coming down, this is mainly just a pullback to the downside. And you can clearly see the way the prices are reacting. So overall, we'll definitely still be looking for buying opportunities here. But this one does seem quite interesting, especially based on the location of where we are at now. So here, we'll wait to see if we can end up actually getting this price breaking this area to the upside. So if we do end up seeing this price going above and actually holding above, then chances are we should be able to look for buying opportunities. But if that ends up happening, at least you probably would be targeting within this particular location right here. You can see this is probably a probe right there. And this right here is probably the true support and resistance area around this blue level. We'll wait to see what ends up happening, but if the market does not actually hold to the upside, remember the price can still potentially even come all the way back down within this buyer's area before we do end up finding the buying opportunities coming in. We'll wait to see what ends up happening on this pair, but chances are it could have something to do with the Canadian dollar pairs. Remember, we've just looked at the Australian dollar against Canadian dollar, does seem to be breaking us resistance area, and we are right now seeing it on the New Zealand dollar against Canadian dollar. So let's have a look at the other Canadian dollar pairs. If we do see the same thing, then you definitely know it's a Canadian dollar pair thing. So here we have the Canadian dollar against the Swiss franc, and in this kind of pair, our bias here is to look for selling opportunities, brand new entry on our watch list. You can clearly see the Swiss franc has definitely been showing a lot of strength throughout the week, or at least throughout last week. So today, our bias here is still going to be looking for selling opportunities on this kind of pair. But one thing you need to take note of is the fact that you can clearly see we have gotten the push to the downside. It's a similar situation. Most people know that the market does trend to the downside like that, lower lows and lower highs. So right now, if we've just gotten our lower low, remember we need our lower high to come in before we're able to look for those selling opportunities. So right now, there's no opportunity to look for the selling opportunity just yet. We need that pullback to potentially end up coming in, either reacting within this support and resistance area, giving us some sort of probe or price action signal within one of the market opening times. We could end up looking for a selling opportunity then. But be aware, the price is able to continue going to the downside. You see it breaking all of this. You see the price going to the downside and breaking this area and holding below, then we should be able to look for selling opportunities there as well on the Canadian dollar against the Swiss franc. You could find that the Canadian dollar does end up showing a lot more weakness, or you could find a lot more strength coming in on the Swiss franc. Remember, we do have some Swiss franc fundamentals coming in during the London session. So hope that's clear on the Canadian dollar against the Swiss franc. As we move on to the next pair that we do have, right here, we have the British pound against the Canadian dollar. Now, we did have this kind of pair on Friday, but our bias then was to actually look for selling opportunities. So we did want to see what kind of pullback was going to come in. We did have our red support resistance area here, but you can clearly see during the US market open, in fact, during the non-farm payroll, we did get the price breaking this area to the upside. It wasn't confirmed to be a breach, but once the price pulled back and actually held above, at that point in time, it did end up confirming that this pair was off our watch list. However, today, since the biases have switched on both pairs, we will definitely be looking for buying opportunities. So we'll be focusing on these three areas of interest to look for the buys. So you can see right now, the price has made a new high, and we are starting to end up getting a pullback. And you can see if I do end up going up to a higher time frame, probably the 1 hour time frame, you can see how major of a support and resistance area this was. So the fact that we have broken it to the upside, let's see if we can actually end up getting the price giving us a pullback and actually holding above that particular area. So right now, let's wait to see what kind of pullback comes in. The sellers are definitely coming in slow, which is what we want, but we have not seen any signs of big boy buyers. So if the sellers are coming slow, then you find a big aggressive green candle coming in, then you definitely know, and especially if it lines up within the market opening times, you definitely know that's definitely a big boy. So if you do find the price actually holding above, then you could end up finding a very nice buying opportunity there. So wait to see what ends up happening. But remember, if the market does not react within here, then you know the buyers are not interested in this area. And you could find the price giving us a pullback a bit lower within this main support resistance area. But also do watch out for this buyers area. Remember, we always mention buy with buyers, sell with sellers. And if you do realize, you can see how many areas that we have an area where the buyers pushed up. There's definitely an area where the buyers pushed up here. You can see there's a buyer right there. So right here, we wait to see if this buyer is not interested. Chances are we could be coming a bit lower to either one of these areas before we do end up seeing those buying opportunities coming in. So hope the game plan is clear on what we're looking at doing on the British pound against Canadian dollar. So we move on to the next and last British pound pair. Oh, sorry, Canadian dollar pair we do have. So right here is a US dollar against Canadian dollar. Now on Friday, we did have this kind of pair looking for selling opportunities. Unfortunately, you can't clearly see where we were at on Friday within this particular area right here, potentially to look for sales. But I did point out that there were some buyers who did seem to be holding the market here. So we did need to either be careful about those particular buyers and wait for a breach, as you can see based on the illustration here. You can see the price started coming to the downside, but that buyer's area still held. You can see the price managed to actually continue going up. So wanted to see what kind of reactions get in the seller's area. There was some small reaction, but that wasn't as aggressive. Remember, we want to see aggressive sellers coming in. So no real sign of big boy sellers, and the market did manage to end up actually going to the upside. So at that point in time, there was no real trading opportunity, and it did end up falling off our watch list. But the good thing is today, the biases have switched. So we'll be looking for buying opportunities on this currency pair. So we'll be focusing on these three areas of interest to look for the buys. So right now, you can clearly see we're within an area where there are sellers. In fact, this is just a huge probe. Seems like the market, especially if you go up to a higher time frame, it looks much clearer. You can see this main sellers area right here. You can see the fact that the market has not been able to actually breach and hold above that area. That's the reason why we're still focusing and respecting that location. So wait to see what ends up happening on this kind of pair. It's either one of two things. Either this market is going to actually break this area to the upside. So if you do find the price breaking and holding above, then we should be able to look for buying opportunities. I think the next problem area you probably would watch out for is within this location right here. That's probably where you should manage your trade. But alternatively, since remember, we're within an area where the sellers could easily get the price giving us a pullback coming in throughout the London session. And during the US session, you could find it within this buyer's area. You could end up finding a very nice buying opportunity there. So on this one, we do need to be patient. Let's wait to see whether or not we'll actually get a breach to the upside or a pullback coming in. So I hope that's clear on all the currency pairs. As you can see, we've mixed and matched all the currency pairs, or at least the yen and the Canadian dollar, with the pairs on the buy side. So right now, we're going to look at the indices before we do look at gold and silver. So we'll start off with the NAS 100. Now, we did think that on Friday, there would be a lot more volatility, but it seems like that was not the case. We not necessarily, it was basically an uneventful non-farm payroll. But you can tell, you see the areas that we did have on this kind of pair to look for those selling opportunities. Now, we do not necessarily get that pullback coming in, although you can see at around 4:30 or so, that's when the non-farm payroll did come in. You can see how much it spiked. Came close within our sellers' area before the price managed to actually continue coming to the downside. You can see there was a small hold below where the market actually came down, but we could not actually get the price to give a proper hold. You can even see if we do end up going up to a higher time frame. Higher time frames will give you a clearer picture. You can clearly see here, it definitely looks like a probe. the market never really held below that particular area. That's the reason why we'll still be focusing on the same locations, or at least the same areas that we did have on Friday. So still looking for selling opportunities, wait to see whether or not we can end up either getting the price reaching, holding below that area, or whether or not we'll actually end up getting a pullback coming in. Remember, on these indices, as well as gold and silver, we're purely technical, meaning if the price is holding below the red support and resistance area, we will be looking for sales. If the price goes above the red support resistance area, we will be looking for buying opportunities then. So right now, the fact that it does seem to be in some sort of small range, bouncing between these levels. So let's wait to see either a breach and a hold below for us to look for those sales, or we could end up getting a pullback coming in, either within this particular area, or we look for sales, or it could end up even coming all the way to the top. So do be careful, especially due to the fact that the market did end up giving us a probe. It's not necessarily, chances are we might end up getting a bit more of a pullback. But remember, we will still be looking for sales as long as this red support and resistance area is still holding. So hope that's clear. Let's wait to see whether or not we can end up getting a pullback coming in on the NAS 100. So as we move on to the next pair, which is the Dow Jones, similar situation. Our bias here was to look for selling opportunities. Now I've adjusted the area slightly, but this was the areas that we did have on Friday. Now, wanted to see whether or not we could end up getting a pullback coming in, or the price actually breaking and holding below. Now, you can clearly see this one was quite messy. During the non-farm payroll, we did get the price spiking to the upside, then managed to come down, then spike back up. And that's the reason why we did end up encouraging to not necessarily start jumping in on trades when the non-farm payroll is there. You could end up getting such liquidity grabs where you just end up getting stopped out before the market actually goes. Now, we did end up attempting to come down multiple times before the price came back up. Now, we ended up going to a higher time frame to identify that this market does seem to be in a huge range. You can clearly see this is the main support and resistance area. That's the reason why we've adjusted it slightly to be a bit lower. So you can clearly see the market structure. We do seem to be in some sort of range. So overall, we'll definitely still be looking for selling opportunities, still respecting the same areas. Now, if the market is ranging, then you know the best place to look for yourselves is at the top of the range. So we'll be focusing on this particular area right here. But the fact that right now we're in the middle of this range, there's not much we can do except either wait for the price to end up coming to one of the particular areas. So it's either the price is going to come down, if it breaks and holds below, then we should be able to look for selling opportunities. But chances are we could end up getting this price giving us a pullback coming in within this main seller's area before we do end up looking for a sell. Now, one thing to take note of, especially when the markets do end up going down and struggling to actually make new lows, chances are we might need a better price. So even though we are ranging, remember, we will still be looking for selling opportunities as long as we're holding below this red support and resistance area. The price could potentially end up coming in a bit higher, maybe even to the red SNR before we're able to look for sales. But remember, if the price is able to break and hold above this red support and resistance area, at that point in time, our bias will switch and we will start looking for buying opportunities. So we wait to see what ends up happening on the Dow Jones. Hopefully today we will have a lot more volatility on the charts. So as we move on to silver. Now on silver, our bias on Friday was to look for buying opportunities. It is still the same situation today, but you can see not really much activity, especially how choppy this price was. Remember, we are within some sort of range, bouncing between these levels. So the fact that the price does still seem to be respecting, even though on Friday we got the price attempting to come down multiple times, could have stopped a number of people out before the price has come back, and we can clearly see are still respecting this same support and resistance area. It just meant that this, especially if you do end up going up to a higher time frame, does end up just looking like a probe. So in this situation, markets are still respecting the same areas, and the fact that we're within a range, then chances are we could be waiting for a buying opportunity at the bottom of the range to look for a buying opportunity then. But remember, if the price is able to break and hold below this red SNR, chances are we might even need to come down a bit lower, potentially to this red SNR for us to look for those buying opportunities. So overall, market structure is a range. Best place to look for your buying opportunities at the bottom of the range. If you do miss that and the price is able to continue going to the upside and it does end up holding above, then you should be able to continue looking for buying opportunities then. Remember, we will be looking for buys as long as we're holding above the red support resistance area. Any chance the price comes down, breaks and holds below this red SNR, our bias will switch and we will start looking for selling opportunities then. So hope that's clear on silver as we move on to the next pair that we do have, which is gold. Now, gold, similar situation, hardly any activity that did end up happening on Friday. You can clearly see we've been in a range for quite a bit of time, a couple of days bouncing between these two levels. So it's a pretty similar situation. On Friday during the non-farm payroll, the price was within the area where the sellers, you can see the price still managed to spike all the way down, came back towards the buyer's area and still managed to go all the way back up. So if you did end up having a pending order there and managing your trade, that would definitely have worked out. And you can still see the price still managed to come back within this buyer's area, still respecting this particular range. So overall, buyers here is still going to be looking for buying opportunities. We are still respecting this range, but remember, the best place to look for your buying opportunity is at the bottom of the range. If you end up getting some sort of global price action signal, that will definitely increase your probability of your trade working out. But remember, if the price ends up continue going to the upside, it reaches and holds above, then at that point in time, you should be able to look for buying opportunities. Don't be excited because you're seeing a big green candle with the price all the way up there. You can see all those people on Friday or breakout traders looking for buying opportunities there without waiting for confirmation that the price is actually going to hold. Clearly would have ended up being stopped out. So do make sure you are able to wait and see if the price is actually going to hold above that level. But overall, we will definitely be looking for buying opportunities as long as we're holding above this Fed support and resistance area. Now I have this blue SNR area here because especially if I do go up to the higher time frame, the 1 hour time frame here, you can see the way the buyers did manage to push to the upside. We did end up reaching this small support and resistance area, and it does seem that the price has probed or spiked towards that area, but the true support and resistance area does still seem to be where we have the yellow support and resistance area. We'll wait to see what ends up happening, either breach to the upside or the price would end up coming down. But remember, we will be looking for buying opportunities as long as we're holding above this red SNR. If the price breaches and holds below that area, then at that point in time, we will be safe to actually look for selling opportunities there. So I hope the game plan is clear on what we're looking at doing on all the kinds of pairs. As you can see, we've mixed and matched all the pairs on the sell side with the pairs on the buy side, including the indices as well as gold and silver. So I guess that's it from me and from us. I'm not seeing any questions on the chat box, which is okay. Hope everything is clear and well understood. But remember, guys, if you do want more education, want to become better as a trader, do feel free to reach out to us and we'll see in what ways we can end up helping you out. So once again, thank you guys so much. Hope you have an amazing trading day. God bless. Happy trading and bye for now. Oh, sorry, I'm seeing a question or at least a comment. Dan Bickett, Daniel Simi saying good morning, meeting at Fred. Good morning, Dan. Happy that you're here as well. Yeah, so I guess that's it. Hope to see you guys tomorrow. Remember, if you do manage to take any setups, feel free to send in your screenshots. We do end up really appreciating that. At least we know that we're not necessarily doing this for nothing. We are doing it for ourselves, but at least we also want to see if we are helping you guys out. If there's something you're struggling with or something you want us to change within these sessions, just let us know to see what ways we can end up making it better for you. Remember, we want it to be as much, way more interactive than it is. So feel free to reach out to us with any suggestions that you do have. So once again, thank you guys so much. Have an amazing trading day. God bless and bye for now. Cheers, guys.